Welcome to the Blow the Whistle podcast. My name is Britton Ross. We're going to talk all things OU sports and, just a few other headlines from around other leagues. I'm joined today with Aidan Tyler, knower of ball. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for the invite here today.
Oh, yeah, the inaugural guest.
The inaugural
guest.
The only.
All right. First things first. Final Four is this weekend. Mm-hmm. How did you feel about the tournament as a whole before the Final Four?
Before the Final Four, leading up to this, very chalk-based, and that just simply means the higher seed usually got the win. It was what it felt like. There was no real Cinderella story. Everybody was high like McNeese, maybe Grand Canyon, teams like that got a lot of hype before the tournament. None of them made it that far. It is all one seeds. I don't remember the last time that's actually happened, but I think this means the most talented teams are there. The best teams really have made it to the Final Four. I've got no issues with this.
Yeah, on both sides. For the men's side, it's all one seeds: Auburn, Florida, Duke, and Houston. And then on the women's side, 3 1 seeds and a 2 seed, and that 2 seed is UConn of all teams.
Right, UConn is. They were a dynasty.
They're never a 2 seed.
They're never a 2 seed.
Right. So, we're about to get the best 6 games of college basketball probably all season long. So I'm okay with that, even though the tournaments themselves weren't super great, because I'd rather have the best team be the champion rather than what we had 2 years ago now, where the Final Four on the men's side was Florida Atlantic, Miami, San Diego State, and UConn.
Yes.
And the tournament leading up to the Final Four was insane. It was what March Madness is supposed to be.
Absolutely. You get to the Final Four, though, and it kind of loses that.
It was like, wow, UConn is just going to dog walk their way to a championship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'd rather have the best teams play now, I think, in my opinion.
I like a good upset, as does, I think, anybody.
And we had a couple.
And we did have a few. McNeese beating really steamrolled through Clemson, and then tried their hardest to blow that game.
Right. And even 10 seed Arkansas making it
Arkansas made it all the way to the Elite 8, correct?
I think so. Either the Sweet 16 or
the Sweet 16, because they lost to Texas Tech, blew that lead against Tech, and then Tech blew the lead to I
can't even remember who they played now.
It was. Oh, man.
Stat department's on it real quick,
Stat
everybody.
Department.
I'm going to feel so stupid for not remembering.
I don't know why I can't remember this. It was Florida.
Yeah,
it was Florida.
Yeah, it was Florida.
Yeah, and I knew that. I was watching that game locked in. It was crazy because Texas Tech was up big on them the way Arkansas was up big on Tech. It was like the roles just simply reversed in that game. It was crazy.
Even some of those games with Texas Tech, even though they were a higher seed, it still kind of felt like they were it still felt like they were an underdog against Arkansas.
Yeah, and
maybe that's just the Coach Cal effect.
I think that's what I was about to say. I think it's Coach Cal. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. Made Kentucky. Kentucky was always going to be good, but he made them so much better. And now he's at Arkansas doing the same thing.
It's weird that Kentucky only won 1 natty while he was there.
It feels like they won more with all the great players that came through that program.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure we'll touch more on a couple of those players that came through the Kentucky program in a little bit. But so on the men's side, who you got?
In the Final Four, Auburn and Florida, right? That is extremely intriguing. SEC foes. It was the best conference in the country this year. Maybe the best conference ever. You could maybe argue they got 14 teams.
Yeah,
I think into the tournament. That's insane.
14 of 16 teams in the NCAA tournament,
which is just unreal. So Auburn and Florida, both great teams. Auburn has an excellent size, but just something about that Florida team. They've been red hot. They closed out the year in a great way.
Yep.
They play really, really good defensive ball as well. I would say Florida, I think, is more made for the moment than Auburn is. Bruce Pearl's a great coach, but I think Florida's on the come up. Duke and Houston, defensive battle.
Oh, yeah.
It might be a race to like 65 points, if that, maybe 60. And it's going to take a lot for whoever it is to get there. These are both hard, gritty defenses, but it's very hard for me to ignore the talent that Duke has. And Cooper Flagg might be a generational prospect. He's insanely good, and they've got other young guys on that team. Come on, Malawach is really good as well. I'm taking Duke in the matchup there.
And then in the Natty, you got Florida and Duke.
Florida and Duke, yeah. And they say experience, leadership, having older guys, not just freshmen, matters a ton in March. And I think that's absolutely true. And I just bragged about how good the freshmen are for Duke. I think a Final Four against experienced guys in Florida is where they meet their maker. And I think Florida takes it all. Walter Clayton's been in college forever.
Yeah.
And but he's a bucket, man. He's a bucket. I think Florida is going to win it. It'll be close. But I think if it comes down to the late moment, I trust Florida and their experience and being in situations like that over Duke.
Okay. Who do you got on the women's side? It's South Carolina,
right?
UConn and Texas, and I always forget it's UCLA.
Yeah. So Texas and South Carolina both 1 seeds. That opens up the Final Four. Can you bet against Dawn Staley?
Honestly, that was my answer. Like, I was thinking about it as I was looking at the run, like making the rundown for the show, and I was thinking about like. I was like, I just can't bet against Dawn Staley in the South Carolina Gamecocks.
I'm wearing an OU hoodie. I understand that Texas is the biggest rival here, but it's South Carolina.
Right.
This is nothing against Texas. They're a very talented team, extremely great team, but it's South Carolina. It's Dawn Staley. They've had a couple of really close games, though, in this tournament where I was thinking, oh, my gosh, they're going to lose.
Yeah, I had the same thought.
But it's Dawn Staley. It's South Carolina. I mean, it's like with UConn on the men's side, right? This year, they were the 8th seed going against 9th seed at OU, and it was just like, OU maybe feels like the better team heading into this, or at least they're even.
They were definitely maybe on a hotter stretch coming off of the wins to end the regular season.
Texas.
You had Missouri, a ranked Missouri team at Texas for Porter Moser's first win against
Big
Texas.
Win against Georgia to open the tournament as well.
Georgia, and then another 1-point loss to Kentucky. I mean, you could argue that OU was hotter going into the tournament than UConn was.
But it's UConn.
And experience matters.
And it's Dan Hurley, and experience matters. Yeah. These South Carolina girls have been in this spot. It's a really good Texas team, but South Carolina's been there. Give me Dawn Staley and them.
Yeah, same.
UConn and UCLA, I'm going to be honest. I had UCLA losing, I think, in the Sweet 16. Maybe it was the Elite 8. I'm not that high on them, but they've made it here.
Right. Right.
I don't know. I think they're a great team, but it's UConn. It's Paige Beckers. She's the best player in the country, other than Juju Watkins, I would say.
She may be the best player in the country, men's or women's.
Yeah. I would say Juju Watkins probably, for me, I would say is better than Paige.
Pre-injury,
obviously, tore ACL. Horrible. I think USC could have been in this spot if she was healthy.
I think USC has a chance to play in the national championship game if she's healthy.
Absolutely do. But because Paige Beckers is still at UConn, Gino and his squad, it's going to be Gino versus Dawn Staley again, and it's so hard. It's just so hard to bet against Dawn Staley. I think they do it again.
Yeah. So kind of touched on it a little bit, but obviously we're here at the University of Oklahoma in Gaylord College. You and I have both covered men's and women's basketball for our student newscast, OU Nightly. Shout out OU Nightly, Sooner Sports Pad.
Yes. Yeah.
How are you feeling about the future of OU basketball? Because, I mean, on one side, it looks great.
Absolutely.
And on the other side, you're like, oh, no.
Yeah. Well, and so we'll start with, we'll keep the theme of the women. We'll head back to the men.
Okay.
They just got Aaliyah Chavez, the #1 recruit in the country, and she is unreal. I mean, I put on her tape, and it was immediately, she looks a lot to me like Trae Young. And
a walking bucket.
A walking bucket who's really good at distributing, passing the ball. Trae Young, when he was at OU playing, led the nation in points per game and assists per game. That is unheard of.
I believe he's still the only player to ever do that.
He's the only player to ever do it. And by the way, he didn't even win his own conference's player of the year, which is just insane.
Disrespect.
I think having Aaliyah Chavez is going to be like if OU basketball had Trae Young, but for 3 or 4 years.
Imagine putting Trae Young and Blake Griffin on the same team with Reagan Beers.
That's what Reagan Beers and Aaliyah Chavez feels like.
Oh, man, that's going to be insane.
I wish Reagan Beers, for the sake of OU women's basketball, I wish Reagan Beers had more eligibility, because she's have to play with Aaliyah Chavez as a freshman. She gets to play with Aaliyah Chavez, but only for that one season. I don't doubt that Coach Jenny Baranczyk is going to hit the portal hard and find good replacements, but it's hard to replace an all-American center Reagan Beers. Peyton Verhulst should be coming back as well. She had an elite tournament, really shined in that game against UConn that they lost. I think the women's team looks really, really good. Keziah Lofton coming in, another 5-star for that team as well. And I'm sure they're going to add some portal additions here really, really soon. So I think women's basketball is definitely an uptick for OU. And I think getting a player like Chavez and pairing her with a center like Reagan Beers, they could be in the Final Four immediately.
The thing is having a 6'4" center in women's basketball is really hard to find.
Exactly.
And I think, I'm not entirely sure because I know Reagan Beers is going into her senior year, but the eligibility rules are completely worthless now because
we've got 7th, 8th year seniors.
Yeah. There were people who went to high school when I was in high school, currently still playing in college football. I graduated high school in 2017. No,
it's unreal to me.
It's fine being in college, but you can't be I dropped out of college and came back. Like, you can't just still be playing.
Yeah.
You can't just do that forever.
And I understand like COVID made things really, and I think that was a good decision. It was super unfair, I think, for a lot of these athletes to be robbed of that season. Mm-hmm. And then you get to the medical red shirts, the injuries. And then you get into, well, they have a 5th year if they were red-shirted, if they want to go to grad school. I've always felt like 5 was the top. None of these students that are in college anymore were impacted by COVID. They did not lose a season to COVID.
Right. I mean, the only ones that would have been like the current 5th-year seniors would have lost their...
After this...
But then like if you got the 5th year eligibility, and then if you redshirted that next year in 2021, then you still would technically have another year.
Yeah, you would have 6, but there's no reason
going into so this next upcoming school year should be the totally last year that we have to deal with this kind of weird eligibility rules.
Yeah, and so I feel like for the sake of that situation, 6 years is fine.
Outside of medical red shirts.
The men's team is...
Yeah, let's get back on track.
Yeah, we'll get back to the men's team. I feel bad for Porter Moser.
Oh, man.
I think he's a great head coach. He's an excellent people person.
He's been genuinely, out of all the OU coaches that I've talked to, he might be one of the nicest ones.
I feel like him and Patty Gasso.
Him and Patty
Gasso are phenomenal human beings.
Yes.
I think they're all great. I really do. I think that's something that Joe Castiglione, the AD here, looks for is great humans to hire.
Yes.
Who are going to develop you more than just on the field. And I feel bad for Porter Moser because he's able to get good talent in, but he struggles to retain it because I feel like the men's basketball team is lacking the NIL funds, but they're lacking fan support a tremendous amount. Me personally, if I was a college athlete, I don't want to go somewhere where the fans aren't going to be rocking every single game. I don't want to go somewhere like the Lloyd Noble Center to play my basketball games.
And I mean, I guess to the university's extent, obviously they're not dumping a ton of money into, the program, but I mean, at least they're trying to build a new arena.
Right. But
I don't like how they're going about it, just trying to force it upon the people of Norman and trying to get the taxpayers to pay for it.
Right.
That shouldn't be how that's done at all. Plus the fact that it's 20 minutes off of campus and they can't even get students to come to the Lloyd Noble Center and it's 2 blocks away. Like you can't fill it when it's on campus. How do you expect students, even if it's new and shiny, the only way you're going to fill it is by having a good basketball team year in and year out.
And that's just not Oklahoma's forte, and it hasn't been since the days of like Wayne and Tisdale. Blake Griffin was super, super good at basketball. Only got 1 year of him, and then it was kind of back to that fight. They could make the tournament fairly consistently, but they weren't winning championships. They weren't making Final Fours.
Yeah.
Buddy Hield came through, was it 4 years or 5 years of greatness with Buddy Hield, one of the greatest players ever come through. And even then, they weren't necessarily selling out the Lloyd Noble Center. Trae Young, his 1 year.
They were, with the Buddy Hield year, when he won the Naismith Award, they were the number 1 ranked team in the country, and they still couldn't fill it.
Right, and I think part of it is the Lloyd Noble Center itself.
For sure.
It's just not great. And then it's just truly how marketable is Oklahoma for basketball. We know how marketable it is for football. In basketball, OU isn't a blue blood like they are with football, and that becomes an issue. And I think in this state anyways, it's just the more popular sport.
Right.
In general. And so I feel bad because they're always going to have a hard time retaining guys in this new era without the funding, without fan support.
Yep.
And it just feels like it's going to be a cycle. OU can be very, very good at basketball. I don't think this is Porter Moser's fault. I think there are definitely areas he must improve on. He absolutely has to get better as a coach. He's a good recruiter. He's got great people skills. He builds great relationships, but there's only so much you can do when in April and May, the check you're given is not what you need it to be.
Right. And I think he is a great recruiter, but I think one of the problems that he's had is retaining certain players, right? Imagine how insane. I understand Jeremiah Fears is going to be a lottery pick, but could you imagine just one more year?
Right.
Just trying to, because it's been constant turnover. Because I believe last year coming into this year, he had a completely brand new starting five. Mm-hmm. And you just can't do that. You have to have some kind of consistency. Now, I do think Dayton Forsyth will be here for 4 years. And maybe he can be that consistency that builds this program up to the level that it needs to be for the brand that Oklahoma is. OU men's basketball is not where it needs to be.
No. And
it's not even close.
And I agree with that point, though. Forsyth, he's just not going to make the NBA more than likely. If I had to put, my life savings on it, I'd say you would, but he's a great player, great kid. And he's a hustler. He cares. And I think that's another thing that Porter Moser needs more of. I think he needs more guys that want to be at OU. Forsyth's dream school was OU. It's still OU. I don't know him personally, but I know that when he puts on the jersey and it reads Sooners across his chest, he's got a sense of pride in that. He was...
And it shows in how he plays.
And it does. He cares. He's so gritty. He comes in and he might not make every shot. He might not make the flashy plays, but he's going to die for the loose ball. He's going to play really good defense. Moser needs to find guys that want to be at OU, not necessarily find the guys who want to be at OU to keep their careers going.
Right. That's just a long way to say of invest in men's basketball.
Yes, and show up. The fans need to show up because they feed off of it. Porter's been trying to get them to do it.
And he's been so good at going out to events and being involved in Greek life here on campus, just trying, pleading, begging people to show up. And they just don't. It's free admission to get in. There's $2 refreshments. $2 refreshments.
Popcorn.
Yeah. $2. They play on Tuesdays all the time. It's $2 beer, $2 popcorn. I think, isn't it like $2 hot dogs or something too?
I think so.
Yeah. It's like
they give out free shirts all the time.
Yeah, they give out free shirts.
They have a game in the McCaslin Fieldhouse for just the students.
Yeah. Which the first year, electric. Second year, we were there.
Yeah.
It wasn't anywhere close to the environment the first year.
And the team this season.
And it's part of it because they didn't really market it. Yeah. Nobody knew. And plus it was like the weekend. It was the weekend where it was like,
I want to say it was dead week for students.
Yeah, it was
right before finals.
It was dead week, the week before finals week, and they didn't market it. They had a few like yard signs out in front of McCaslin Fieldhouse and on the South Oval. That's all they did to market the game.
Post that everywhere.
Yeah,
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
I didn't see any social media posts about that game.
I don't know if
I don't know how you have that kind of like specialty game and not even try to market it as much as they did. It felt very last minute.
It did. It really did. I think that's something you've got to plan out ahead of time. It is.
Well, that's on for the outlook. So we're going to switch over to some current sports. The biggest thing probably going on campus right now, since OU's softball isn't playing an SEC conference series, is OU baseball. Number 10 OU, number 7 LSU. They started last night on Thursday night. OU lost 2-0 from LSU, and we didn't get a chance to watch the whole game. I saw bits and pieces, read the highlights, all that sort of stuff. Kyson Witherspoon had a good outing. 6 innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 runs, both earned, 1 walk, only 4 strikeouts.
Yeah, that's
low. That's low. Because normally, I don't think I've seen him have less than at least 7 or 8. On 100 pitches, the loss moves him to 5-2 on the year. But James Hitt came in the 7th, and he did really well. 3 innings pitched, no hits, no runs, no walks, 4 Ks on 26 pitches.
Yeah, he was electric out of the pen, man. He really was.
And I
got a hold there and played well.
Yeah, and I think even though OU lost this first game, I think what that does is it sets your bullpen up extremely well going into tonight's game and then tomorrow.
Right, and Saturday's game, tomorrow's game, those you have typically been more of a bullpen style game. I think it instills the confidence in Skip Johnson's pitching staff.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, OU lost 2-0.
Why was that? Why did they lose 2-0?
Well,
I think there's an obvious answer.
There is an obvious answer. Cade Anderson from Louisiana State University, a sophomore, by the way. He's their
Not
ace.
draft eligible.
Yeah, 9 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 walks, no runs, 14 strikeouts on 135 pitches. Jesus Christ.
It's just unreal, isn't it? And that's one of the best pitching performances I've ever seen, I think. Think about it this way. He was getting a strikeout every 9 or so pitches. It takes 3 pitches to be strikes called for a strikeout. So to get that's just insane. 135 pitches in today's day and age of baseball. Dude, that is a Nolan Ryan stat line. Nolan Ryan's, in my opinion, the greatest pitcher to ever play the game of baseball. That is a Nolan Ryan stat. Cade Anderson might not pitch for a week and a half now. I mean, seriously.
And I think that game being on a Thursday, if he's obviously their Friday night starter, that game being on a Thursday, that gives him an extra day's rest going into their next weekend series. I mean, that could have played a part also maybe because he was dealing the entire night.
Down.
Yeah.
5 hits and 9 innings pitched. What did he give up? 2 walks. Yeah, 2 walks. No runs. A complete game shutout. Wasn't a Maddox, but it was a great performance.
Listen to this. OU only had 1 extra base hit. They had 4 singles and 1 double from Sam Christensen, and it amounted to nothing.
And OU's best inning was the very first inning. They were kind of getting on to Cade Anderson for a little bit, and it instilled confidence that they can make this a quick outing for Anderson, get him off the bump, get some new guys in there. They could just pile in some runs. They left the bases loaded.
In the first inning. They left 6 runners on base throughout the entire game.
And 3 of them, first inning. Half of them were in the top frame of the game. And that's just not a method for success, right? You go look at Kyson Witherspoon. This is not a bad game.
No, that's a great outing.
That's a great.
Usually,
Jamie Hitt comes in and it completes the rest of the game. That doesn't happen with relievers.
Yeah,
if a pitcher only goes 6 innings, you're usually using 2 or 3 or 4 pitchers.
Especially Skip Johnson.
Especially Skip, because he's got a ton of them. He told me that. He didn't use that language. But he's told me, you got a lot. You got to throw them all. Witherspoon 4 Ks. That's a little low for his standard. His main issue, I love Kyson Witherspoon. He's an excellent pitcher. He's on award watch list. He's got to find a way to be more efficient with his pitches and go longer in outings. I don't know if he's gone any longer than about 7 innings this year.
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of, 10, 11, 12, at-bats where it's just 10, 11, 12.
Pitch at-bats.
Yeah, pitch at-bats, yeah. That's what I was getting at. But, I mean, for LSU, they're scoring at RBI singles in the 3rd inning and an RBI double in the 5th. Like, that's nothing crazy. Even for Kyson, that's not anything crazy.
And Kyson was able to work around traffic in the game and do well. I think he's going to be a first-round pick in the draft, but he's got to be more efficient. The other issue, both those runs were earned today, but I think a lot of his runs this season, maybe not a lot, but a few I've seen with this team in general, their defense just is not SEC standard, man.
Yeah.
It's just not. I feel like every game they've got an error, and you just can't do that if you want to compete with the big boys in the SEC. This is a really good OU baseball team, and I know they can score runs, but they still haven't figured out how to hit off a Friday night pitcher.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. And I think, this is a really good OU baseball team. It's definitely been probably the best baseball team since we've been here on campus, because we both got here after the 2022 the 21-22 national championship runner-up year. But that's a damn good LSU squad though.
And LSU's always good.
Yeah.
Look at Paul Skeens, man. He was their Cade Anderson.
Yeah.
First overall pick in the draft, and now he's in the big leagues, mowing hitters down. He might win the Cy Young this year.
OU's got to find a way to get some of these wins against some of these really good teams, though.
They really do. I mean, the Alabama
they should have won that. But, I mean, they won the series with South Carolina, which turns out South Carolina's not very good. Shocking. And then they won the series with Mississippi State.
They've got to find a way to prove that they're a top 10 team. They got to prove their way into hosting a regional, maybe even the super regional. But it's the SEC. This conference is absolutely loaded. I understand why they're losing a game.
Oh, yeah.
I don't expect them to come and face LSU and sweep LSU.
You got to find a way to
You've got to find a way to win this series. You win this series, and I think your trajectory for the season skyrockets.
You win this series, and, yeah, you're looking at potentially hosting a super regional.
Yeah. Now, you know a team that I think will host? But they won't. There is no think they will host. It's OU softball.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That team, this is a down year for OU, and they are, what are they, 33-3?
The pitcher they lost to twice, it was Friday and Sunday, she broke the record for the fastest pitch ever. And I was watching some of those games over the weekend. I worked the Saturday game for Sooner Vision across the street, and it just doesn't, this OU team just doesn't, their pitching staff is super thin. It's Sam Landry, who got the loss on both of Friday and Sunday, and Kirsten Deal, who the Saturday game against Tennessee had a complete game shutout, went 7 innings. And it was a great outing. But, I mean, besides those two, they just don't. They just don't have.
Last season, they could throw anybody.
Yeah, they don't have like the dominant pitcher, the Jordy Ball, or, I mean,
the Paige Parker.
Yeah, the Paige Parker.
I'm blanking now. Wow, but still, I mean, Sam Landry, I think, is that dominant pitcher.
And you don't have any like big name transfers like Alex Storako, who came in from Michigan a couple years ago, or Kelly Maxwell
coming from OSU.
Yeah, I mean, you could still have Jordy Ball, but
I understand why she left.
I understand why she left, and it's totally okay. But
we do miss her a little.
Well, we miss her.
We miss her a lot. But and my issue with Patty Gasso's squad, they just don't seem to have that it. They don't have that.
There are a few players that are like, wow. Like every time they're up to bat, you're just like, put the phone down. We got to watch
Sanders
this.
Hit 2 homers.
In the same
inning.
Yes.
That's insane. But when it comes down to a close game, there's nobody on this team that I feel like I'm confident saying, like, I trust this person to go and get me a home run or an RBI.
Right. Like last year, they've
left tons of runners on the base paths.
Oh my gosh. It's been bad. But last year, it felt like any time that there was a critical moment, a crucial situation, we have to get a hit here. It felt like it didn't even matter who stepped up into the box.
Yeah.
With Kenzie Hansen, Jada Coleman, T.R.A. Jennings, Riley Boone, it didn't matter.
Senior. That's what that was. They've lost the best senior class in, I think, college athletics history.
It's up there. It's the best senior class in college softball history. It is.
It is, no doubt.
A four-peat it's rare in any level of sport. But, I mean, in softball, diamond sports are the hardest sport to play.
It's all about who gets hot at the right time. And Patty Gasso's girls have done that time and time again. And maybe that'll happen this year. But I feel like maybe you're losing a little bit of that confidence. But they've lost 3 games the whole season.
Yeah, they're 33-3.
That's how I think. I don't want to say privileged OU fans are, but that's how blessed they've been recently.
You mean spoiled?
Yes, spoiled. That's how spoiled OU fans are, is that they complain about 3 losses in 36 games. Tennessee stormed OU's field when they won a series against OU. Because at the end of the day, that is the Super Bowl.
And made a hype video about it.
Yeah. You know what? I'd be doing the same thing.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
You just beat the team that's won the Natty for 4 years in a row. Nobody's really been able to touch them, is what it feels like. Do your thing.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. Go back to Rocky Top and brag about it.
Yeah. Rocky Top, elite fight song. Not even their fight song.
Not even their fight song.
Just an elite school song.
It's a fight song to me.
Yeah. Right. We didn't even talk about the game from last time.
We're talking about Sydney Sanders. That's
so
highlight.
Number 3 OU played St. Thomas. Where are they? It's one of those schools. For some reason, they don't have an SEC series this week. They believe they play Central Florida tonight. Yes, Central Florida tonight at 7, and then I think they play UCF again tomorrow.
I think they do as well.
OU won 12-4 last night in 5 innings at the O'Connor Invitational here at Loves Field on campus. As we mentioned earlier, Sydney Sanders homered twice in the second inning, which she was the first Sooner to homer twice in one inning in over a year from Aaliyah Torres. Alina Torres. Yes, my bad. This is what the second inning was like. Listen to this. So to start the second inning, Sydney Sanders hit a solo home run, and then a walk, single, an RBI bunt, a 2 RBI single, another single, an RBI double, and then another Sydney Sanders 3 RBI home run, put OU up 8-0 in the second inning.
It's just a clinic in that second inning, and
which is weird because sometimes they have it and sometimes they don't.
Yeah, and I was about to say that. It's just like sometimes they do and sometimes they don't, but maybe that's just because they played lower competition.
More than likely.
That's what that is.
So some of these stat lines: Sydney Sanders 2 for 3, 2 homers, 4 RBI. Gabby Garcia, the freshman, oh my goodness,
she's
unreal. 3 for 3, 2 runs and an RBI. I believe she at one point she had like a 15-game hitting streak this year as a freshman.
As a frosh,
yeah. And to start the year, I forget even what stat it was, but she was hitting like so many homers that she was on pace to break Jocelyn Allo's record for like freshman home runs. I don't remember what she's at now.
Anytime you're an OU softball player or any softball player and you're associated with Jocelyn Allo in any way.
Potentially the greatest softball player.
The home run queen.
But potentially one of the best softball players to ever play the game.
That's a big deal. But I think this is an important stat, that 8-run second, because they did it with the hitting coach, JT Gasso, serving as the head coach.
Yep.
Why did they do that?
Patty Gasso, so this game originally that took place last night was supposed to be a doubleheader today, but then because of the rain that we had this morning, today is Friday, they moved it to last night.
It was supposed to be OU play St. Thomas, and then they play UCF.
Yes, as a doubleheader, and then they play UCF again tomorrow. But they made it as a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series, which head coach Patty Gasso was the keynote speaker last night at the Oklahoma Christian University Associates Gala.
They still won without Patty.
12-4 and 5.
12-4.
They still run ruled them in 5 innings.
So that proves to you the talent this team has, and this proves to me that Patty Gasso, I don't know how many years she has left coaching.
I mean, I believe this is year 29.
I think so.
She was hired in 1995, so I think 95, 96 was her first year.
I don't know how much longer she really has coaching at OU. I mean, you would hope forever, but when she does make that decision that it is time to hang it up and retire,
I'm gonna cry.
I probably will too. She's a legend. She's the greatest that's ever coached this sport. Nick Saban is the Patty Gasso of college football. Man, ain't the other way around.
Yeah.
That's just that. JT Gasso, I think, is the perfect guy to step in, and I think tonight was maybe a little trial run. I know Patty went to her son and was like, "Yeah, you got this. Go show it."
You absolutely know that's exactly what she said too. It was like, "Yeah, you got it."
Yeah, and no big deal. Probably prayed for him and was just like, "Yeah, you're gonna do great."
Yeah,
and went and did her thing and spoke at this gala, and it's Patty Gasso. She probably was perfect game there.
Oh, for sure. And
this is what she does.
Yeah. It's so crazy with OU softball because I remember watching the 2013 national championship when I was in middle school, because that would have been 8th grade. And then I remember the 2016 and 17, that was when I was in high school. And then now, I've been here for 3 years and it's been 2 national championships. And it's kind of wild to see how everything has just evolved over time. And you're younger than I am, so you may not have that quite as much as like remembrance of like that 2013 or 16 teams.
No, but I remember those are the teams that kind of were like, I was a kid. I was a boy. Still am growing up. And I was like, bro, like, I don't care about softball.
But they made you care.
But then they made me care. And the Paige Parkers of the world, and Paige Lowry was really good. A bunch of really great players came through that program, and and invest in the sport. And I know everybody loves to see OU lose.
Oh, yeah.
And I get it because they're so good. It was like the Patriots when they were dominant. It's like the Chiefs now that they're so dominant. You want to see them lose.
Right.
But without OU, the sport of softball is nowhere near where it's at today. And they have Patty Gasso. They have OU to thank for that. Without this dominant reign that they've had, without the talent they've put through, the sport of softball doesn't see the rise that it has, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And that's a good way to kind of end that topic. And so we're going to kind of go into a little bit of NBA because the Oklahoma City Thunder, first in the West, locked up the 1 seed before anyone else had even locked in a playoff spot in the West. Unbelievably dominant this year, I think, is, and somehow still underrated, is like a great way to just describe this year.
Yeah, and they have 50 wins, 50 of their 64.
Yes, 64.
50 of their 64 wins have been by double digits.
Insane.
That is a record in NBA history. They play the Rockets tonight, who, by the way, are a 50-win team.
Yeah.
They're a
50-win team and 14 games back from first place.
That's unheard of. They're a 50-win team, and they are the 2 seed. The 1 seed in the West plays the 2 seed in the West tonight, and I haven't even heard about it because I feel like there's a lack of buzz around the team 30-ish minutes north of here. And then there's a lack of buzz, I think, for Houston as well. They've had a great season, but the only talk in the Western Conference is
Luka and the Lakers.
LeBron, the Lakers, and Nikola Jokic on the Nuggets. Mm-hmm. And then I think occasionally you'll hear about, like, if Steph Curry has a really good game, you'll hear about the Warriors.
Yeah. And I mean, and to their credit, I mean, like, most people are just kind of fighting for, there's so many different like outlets now that everyone's just fighting for, views because that's how they make money. And so they have to focus on like the bigger markets.
And I understand that Oklahoma City's just it's not LA.
It's not LA.
But and then you go look at the Eastern Conference, it's the same way. A not so big market team, Cleveland, I think they've secured the first seed in the West now, or in the East now. I think so.
If they haven't,
they're 5 games up on the Celtics. So I think they're going to. They're the 1 seed.
They're going to be. Yeah.
But all the talk is about how good the Celtics are because it's Boston and LA. It's a huge rivalry. They're the best sports cities in the world. The Knicks are really good. Nobody cares about how good the Pacers have been this year. If Giannis wasn't on the Bucks, nobody would care about the Bucks. And that's just how
Especially since Dame got hurt.
The Pistons are a 42-win team, and they're the 6th seed in the East.
I had no idea the Pistons had 42 wins.
Nobody knew that the Pistons were 42 and 34. I didn't know that. I was at the game between the Thunder and the Pistons recently, covering that game. And I was like, how good are the Pistons? 42 wins? What has Cade Cunningham done? What has J.B. Bickerstaff done? They've turned it around, and nobody's talking about it. But the Thunder, they play the Rockets tonight, and I guarantee you there's going to be coverage in Oklahoma City at the end of the season.
Oh, yeah.
Because they face the Lakers not once at home, but twice at home, because the NBA is amazing at scheduling. It's just amazing. It's amazing.
So that's going to be, I think, the second time this year where the Thunder have played teams on like back-to-back. I know that game's not back-to-back nights, but you're playing the same team 2 games in a row, and that's the second time that's happened this year because they went to Minnesota and then on a back-to-back, literally after the game, flew back to Oklahoma City and played Minnesota the next night in Oklahoma City. That makes no sense.
It's stupid, and it sucks for both teams travel-wise.
Yeah.
Right? The Lakers, thankfully, for them, they're against New Orleans tonight, and they get to go and rest and then come to OKC Sunday. They're just going to stay in OKC. There is no, you play a Sunday game, then you go play a Monday game in Milwaukee or Denver or something. No, they're going to get to stay in Oklahoma City and enjoy the 405.
Right.
And play them twice. And those are big games for the Lakers as they head into the postseason. But you want to look at the Thunder. None of these games matter at this point, other than for the sake of keeping your guys in the rhythm of basketball. And they're going to get time off when the play-in tournament goes on.
Yeah.
They don't know who they're facing yet. And the crazy thing about the Western Conference is they could face anybody between the 5th seeded Warriors and the 13th seeded. I think maybe the Spurs are out, but for safety, we'll say the 12th seeded Portland Trailblazers. So there's 7 or 8 teams down this table they could face.
The Thunder have been so dominant, and they have the I mean, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be the MVP. Like, he's going to be. And it still feels like nobody's talking about the Thunder. They're having the best season that the franchise has ever had. The best regular season they've ever had. Their net rating
is up there with the 95-96 Bulls, who were considered the greatest team of all time and won 72 games.
At one point throughout the season, I'm not sure how much, if they've, kind of slowed it down a little bit. At one point, they were the greatest defensive team in NBA history going into like the middle of the season.
If the Lakers were doing these numbers, we wouldn't hear the end of it.
No.
Or if the Celtics were.
No. It would be constant, just 24-hour coverage.
It would be. And it still feels like it is. Shai's the MVP.
Yeah. There's no question.
Really?
Okay, yeah. Maybe there's a question with Jokic, but...
It's either him or Jokic, right? And I feel like...
It's going to be Shai.
A lot of the players and the staff and the experts are saying Shai, and I love Shai. And I know voter fatigue is real. That's how Jokic got his first MVP. And it could hurt him. It could cost him this one. But look at what he's doing. It's hard to argue against him. I love Shai. He's an amazing player. He's probably the MVP. But Jokic is the greatest basketball player in the world. And those two things can be true. LeBron James, for years, was the best basketball player in the world. But he wasn't winning MVP every year. I think that might be true this year. What about Lou Dort as the defensive player of the year?
He
should be.
He should be, but
he won't be.
He won't be. The stats just aren't there.
It's like because he doesn't get a bunch of blocks and steals.
He doesn't get a bunch of blocks and steals. All he really does, like the thing with
he does is clamp your favorite player.
Yeah, he puts his clamps on whoever he's guarding, and they're not going to score.
The torture chamber.
The torture chamber. It's a real thing. Watch the games. But I mean, just holding players to half their season average doesn't translate to stats on a stat sheet, and that's all voters look at.
Yeah, and Lou Dort, you cannot underestimate how good of a player he is. He's not going to score 30 points a night. He's not going to go and do those things. But he's going to make sure the star player ain't going to beat you. How many times has the star player beaten OKC? And how many times have OKC been beaten this year? One. How many times has it been because of the star player?
Not many, if any. I mean, maybe Minnesota with Anthony Edwards, but...
And then there's some guys in the NBA, it is just really hard to stop some of these top offensive guys.
Oh, yeah.
Because they will get more of a whistle. Talk about Shai. He's probably got the softest one in the league. It's probably true. And then there's just guys who are just better matchup fits and teams that are really good at getting Lou Dort off their star. That happens. But I think if we're going to go and look at true impact defensively, it should be Dort. No doubt.
Of course. Real quick before we go, let's dive in a little bit. I say dive in, more of like a little toe tap into the water here. Major League Baseball.
Okay. My favorite league.
Torpedo bats are the newest hot commodity going around
Absolutely.
The MLB.
Yeah.
How are you feeling? First off, explain what they are, please.
Okay, so a torpedo bat, it's almost like an unfair advantage. If I had to like... because it was made by they hired like a physicist to make it, I think, or like some sort of like expert in this. But basically, it makes the part of the bat where your players typically hit the ball a little thicker, and you just get more power out of it. The Yankees introduced this early on in the season against the Brewers. First game, Aaron Judge 3 home runs. They scored 20 runs. They hit 9 home runs for their 20 runs. That's just insane. There's nothing in the rule book that says you can't use them. I have no problem with it. Because as of right now, there's no rule that says you can't. And at the end of the day, personally, for me, I love a good old pitcher's duel. I love when a game ends 2-1 or 1-0. I really do. The game goes by quick, which everybody loves. But there's nothing to me quite like seeing a pitcher mow you down. Fastball, high fastball.
Cade Anderson,
LSU, shout out him. Curveball in the dirt, you're swinging and missing. I love that. But if there's anything else that I love just as much, it's when both teams are scoring 8, 9, 10 runs. And that's what these torpedo bats are allowing teams to do. It's allowing for home runs, and everybody loves to see one go out of the park. That's just the way baseball is now. Mm-hmm. higher scoring games are just what the majority of people want, especially casual fans who don't really dive deep into the game. They just want to see, Ohtani come up to the plate. Boom. Crank one 450
Right. It feels like it's either going to within the next month, they're either going to be banned completely or every single batter is going to be using them.
Absolutely.
And it feels like the way that Rob Manfred has been trying to change and try to make the game better, more exciting, more offensive with bigger bases, the pitch clock, getting everything, speeding it up. I think it's going to end up just becoming the standard, which is going to make it nearly impossible for pitchers to be at the level that they used to be.
Yeah, and we've seen it. I mean, Kate Anderson threw 135 pitches. That doesn't happen in the MLB. No. You get to about 70, and it's like, Kate Anderson threw double that, essentially.
It doesn't help that the MLB season is like 3 times longer than the college season.
Yeah. But even then, these guys are pros. They've been doing it longer, so I get it. But back then, in the MLB, back in 80s, 90s time, that was the thing. That was just what it was. My only issue with the torpedo bats is I think it's going to go find its way into the youth levels, and it's going to affect kids playing the game. That's my only issue with it. I hope that doesn't become a thing, but if that's the standard bat that they're going to use across the professional levels of baseball, get the kids involved with it, man. And I hate that for the kids necessarily, but it's a different game. It's an evolving game. Baseball has been a game that hasn't really changed in its over 100 years of existence. And this is probably the most change we've seen. This is the most change we've seen to bats in a week than we've seen in 100 years.
Oh, for sure.
Insane.
It's definitely going to change the way that baseball is played going forward forever.
100%, no doubt.
Thank you so much for joining me today. That's all the time we have. Thank you for listening to the inaugural episode of the Blow the Whistle podcast. Make sure to leave a like and a comment down in the comment section, and we'll see you next time.